Hello, humans, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Gamer. I pray that you are having a great day out there, and I hope you have a productive weekend, a very fun weekend, if you will. And I wanted to share with you the top 10 arcade games that I wasted money on in the 80s. I really had to break it down between the 80s and 90s, so let me start with the 80s, guys. I wrote a little essay here I posted on the community page. If you guys ever want to follow some of these stories, sometimes I put them on there. Now, my voice is a little bit raspy, and for whatever reason, the voice cloner had a really hard time with this particular essay, so I'm going to have to do it on my own. I'm going to be drinking water along the way, so I pray you forgive me, but I really wanted to share this story with you guys. I wasted so much money on these games that if I really just had to put that money in the bank, right now I'd probably have enough for a small down payment on a vacation property, right? In the early 80s, the arcades became the churches of worship for many Generation X kids like myself growing up. It was a big 80s, and everybody had disposable income in a good economy. Don't you wish that that was the case today? Of course you do. In addition, 7-Elevens, liquor stores, supermarkets had multiple arcade machines, if you guys remember back in the day, for those of you who are of a particular age. And if you're tall enough to reach them, hey, that's all it took, right? That was the only requirement. Now, looking back on it, I would call it paradise for transferring capital from those addicted with video games, right, to the store owners who would receive all the profits. Now, previous to this, our lives were spent riding our skateboards, our bikes, running around town, looking for adventures that didn't involve us getting jumped by the local gang, right? At least my friends and I. Local gangs were good for a few things, two of which we were often the recipients of, right? And that was cans of whoop ass and taking our skateboards or bikes. Living in rough neighborhoods, my friends and I were blessed to have video games as our vice to keep us away from the streets, right? And we would pursue, activities that wouldn't put us behind bars. So we decided to pursue arcade games like drunks pursuing happy hour. Now, before speaking with my friends, I started this as a top five, and after reminiscing for a bit, we quickly realized, and they pointed out to me that this would be more of a top 10 if we were to put them in order. So, guys, thank you for joining me on this. Let me take you through this journey of my youth, right, of my young formative years, and tell you how I wasted a lot, very large amounts of time and money as a kid on arcade games. All right, at number 10, I have Yi Are Kung Fu. This is a game that was next to a liquor store adjacent. Yeah, this liquor store was adjacent to my first job, which was a donut shop. And any tips I would receive would quickly go into this particular machine. This was a precursor to the games that you would see out in the 90s, as far as fighting games. But if you never checked it out, go ahead and look it up, right? Look it up and see how fighting games started. And this is the closest thing to kung fu theater in real life that we had at the time, right? The different fighters. It was one on one. It was a good game for the time, right? And all my tips went there for sure when I was working at the donut shop. At number 9, I have the infamous Tempest, right? For what? For us, it was infamous because it caused us to rage so many times. Now, this game was played so much, right, by us after school that the burger shop that we played it in had to change the dial twice on the machine, right? The dial controller, because people were getting pissed off and they lost, and it was just a frustrating game to many, but we loved that frustration, right? We actually calculated how much money we spent in that summer, right? The three of us spent $10 a week for about 90 days, right? It's about 360 bucks at that time. Oh my. All right, at number 8, it wasn't as popular as its predecessor, right? Centipede, but Millipede is the one that I had a soft spot for. I really liked the game. My friends didn't as much, so I had a lot of time to play it, and people really didn't like it, overall. So I had that machine to myself for about 45 days, pretty much, the whole run that it was there. And all my lunch money, let me tell you, went on that machine because, there was nobody else challenging me for the spot usually. It was one or two people there. All right, at number 7 is a beloved game of mine, and it's Vanguard. Now, I finally own this game. I made a video on it after decades of not being able to play it in any significant way, other than some emulation here and there. And this game was uh, at my local arcade, and for my delight, it was always empty, right? Because there was so much selection, so many other games, and when I played this game, I really took to it. I remember buying killer nachos, a large soda, and then whatever was left, man, went straight into that machine whenever I played it on the weekend. Now, at number 6 is Miss Pac-Man, right? Miss Pac-Man. Real quick favor, guys, hit the like button and subscribe. Most people that watch my videos are not subscribed, believe it or not. So if you do so, I would really appreciate it there. All right, at number 7 is a beloved game of mine, and it's Vanguard. Now, I finally own this game. I made a video on it after decades of not being able to play it in any significant way, other than some emulation here and there. And this game was uh, at my local arcade, and for my delight, it was always empty, right? Because there was so much selection, so many other games, and when I played this game, I really took to it. I remember buying killer nachos, a large soda, and then whatever was left, man, went straight into that machine whenever I played it on the weekend. Now, at number 6 is Miss Pac-Man, right? Miss Pac-Man. And let me tell you, Pac-Man is further up on the list, but I actually played Miss Pac-Man more. I played this cabinet more than I did the actual Pac-Man, but Pac-Man is higher on the expense list because for reasons that soon will be evident to you, right? And I'll tell you pretty soon. The main reason that I played this more, number one, was that there was more selection when this game came out. There was other games, and there was multiple Miss Pac-Man. So, the chance of you getting a machine to yourself were, a lot better, number one. And to me, Miss Pac-Man was always the superior game in the Pac-Man universe, right? And pretty much everybody else, the majority of people probably feel the same way. And that music will forever be ingrained in my brain, let me tell you. All right, at number 5 is Asteroid Deluxe. Now, guys, remember this list is subjective. I mean, it could be different for anybody. I'm just telling you based on my experiences, right? And one of the ones that comes vividly to my mind is Asteroid Deluxe. I played the original, but not as much as Deluxe. And this particular cabinet was at the local butcher shop, which is also sort of like a liquor store, a Mexican supermarket, if you will, like they call it. And this supermarket also sold beer, and the ownership was quite generous uh, as far as being a supplier to the local teenagers for all our alcohol needs, right? And the deal was pretty simple, and this still goes on today, guys, in many neighborhoods. We took care of the store, and the store took care of us, right? Nobody snitches, nobody messes around in the store. Store's always kept clean. These are small businesses, and as long as that occurred, when we had I'm talking we were like 15, 15 was pretty much the age they felt was okay for us to take to buy beer, not hard liquor, but beer that would let us buy. Anyway, so I have fond memories of that place, and we spent so much time there and playing Asteroids Deluxe. Let me tell you, when that machine came out and they'd install it there, we were just like blown away. How advanced it looked for its time, believe it or not. All right, at my number 4, all right, it's a Punch Out. Now, there is nothing better than knocking out Glass Joe. First run, right? But let me tell you, the first time that we saw Glass Joe with blue gloves, we thought there was something wrong with the machine. We'd never seen him like that before because at that point we had never seen anybody that actually had beat up Mr. Sandman. But Nintendo with that game couldn't do anything wrong in our eyes. We were always happy about the stuff that we got. Number 3, right? Number 3 is Pac-Man, right? Pac-Man, Pac-Man, Pac-Man. I know you're asking yourselves, how is it that I played Miss Pac-Man more, but I spent more money on Pac-Man? And the answer is, if you guys remember, I told you a story how we had to pay. There was a toll to pay with the gangsters in order for us to play the machine. So you had to pay $1, right, in order to put in your quarter, and $1 to them. And you would ask yourself, well, why would you pay that dollar, right? And let me tell you, I mean, number one, there wasn't that many machines out there. Number two is they demonstrated more than one time that if you refuse to pay the fee, right, they would still beat you up and take your money anyway. So at least you got to play if you paid the fee, right? That was life in the rough neighborhoods of Los Angeles growing up back in the day. All right, my number 2 is Phoenix. Okay, I saw this game make people rage quit before that was even a thing uh, because of its left and right buttons. People were having anxiety with that on that type of shooter. You know, like they could do it on, they could do it on asteroids, but on something like this, it's like your brain got stuck. You know, it didn't work because you're going side to side. But this game was so hard for me as a kid, and at the same time so rewarding. When I first blew up that Phoenix base, let me tell you, it was one of the best feelings ever. But my first addiction, right, in mass, was to Galaxian. I hear the sounds, and as I mentioned the game, I hear the sounds in my heads. My cousins and I would spend every single quarter we had. If somebody got a single quarter, we'd go, and the other two would just watch. Shoot one, shooting one missile at a time. We'd go to Mario's, our local burger joint, and let me tell you, we never got food. We never had enough money for food. It was all about the video games. Oh man, and to this day, I'm the only one who still plays. We're all in our, silver fox age, and I'm the only one that still plays the games. Guys, those were the days. And I was making an observation. I was making this video is that we look down on younger players for embracing microtransactions, right? And if you remember, those are really 25-cent microtransactions. Can you imagine how nuts we would go if we had to pay 25 cents for every game every time we play a video game? We would go insane. And sometimes the video games were 50 cents, some were $1, depending how popular the game was. So maybe you want to be a little bit more benevolent when you're talking to your, to younger players, or maybe to your, grandkids, to your kids, and you start remembering things that your parents or maybe your uncles told you. And I remember vividly them telling me, why do you spend your money on that if you get nothing in return? You get nothing. You have nothing after you play these video games. You have zero, which is true. And it's true of microtransactions. So take it a little bit easier on the youth and let them enjoy games the way they want to enjoy them. Thank you guys. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Hello, humans, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Gamer. I pray that you are having a great day out there, and I hope you have a productive weekend, a very fun weekend, if you will. And I wanted to share with you the top 10 arcade games that I wasted money on in the 80s. I really had to break it down between the 80s and 90s, so let me start with the 80s, guys. I wrote a little essay here I posted on the community page. If you guys ever want to follow some of these stories, sometimes I put them on there. Now, my voice is a little bit raspy, and for whatever reason, the voice cloner had a really hard time with this particular. All right, that's it. Come back for more.